Hey everyone, how we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And as part of the Ask SplitSuit a Question series, a bunch of people asked hand history questions. This one comes via YouTube, and MouzeWarrior just wants me to check out this hand played at 25 no limit full ring. So let's check it out. Okay, so this hand was sent in using the Boom player on PokerStars, and in this spot there is a min raise from player 7. Hero just decides to call. And one quick thing that I'm going to say here, someone who min raises from here probably isn't the greatest player in the entire world, and because of that I'm much more likely to 3-bet here, take control of the pot. I have position. If they 4-bet me, whatever, I'll make some decisions, but honestly I don't expect to get 4-bet too often from people like this. And one of the other things you have to think about is that if you flat here, you give player 9 and player 1 great prices plus position on you, and chances are they're going to continue a little more often than you want them to. So I'd much rather just 3-bet, go from there, especially when I have position on a weaker player. That's going to be my normal go-to. But as played, we get called by player 1. We end up going 3-way to it. Flop top pair, there's a bet, and hero decides to min raise. So at this point in the write-up, MouzeWarrior says, I raised the flop with intentions to fold to a raise, but I still wanted to raise because the c-bet looked weak and I didn't want to allow my opponents to draw so cheaply. I mean, I understand that, and you're far from the first person to use that logic when making a raise here. The thing you have to understand, though, is because you just min-raised, you're still giving player 7 the ability to draw very, very cheaply. You're not punishing a draw, you're not maximizing value against a draw, you're still letting him do exactly what you didn't want to do in the first place. So if you're going to raise here, you have to make a legitimate raise. It can't just be a min-raise because that doesn't really accomplish what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to raise for value to max value from draws or sticky 10x or queen jack or whatever it is, make this a legitimate raise and then go from there. But as played, we end up getting called by player 1, player 7 goes away, go heads up to the turn. Turn is a brick 6, we decide to fire again, and if we're going to fire, which by the way I'm totally cool with, I would prefer that we bet a little bit larger, maybe like 4, 4.25. I think if player 1 is going to continue with a draw for 350, he'll probably continue at 4, 4.25 at roughly the same frequency, so let's make it a little bit larger to maximize value the times that he's going to continue with that draw. And as played, end up going to the river, hero decides to check, and we end up facing an overbet. Now, in this situation, hero decided to kind of check call the river a large chunk of the time, thinking that if you bet, not a lot of second best hands are going to continue, so check and let the draws and all that kind of stuff, all the whiff draws and stuff, fire. And in this situation, I really like the fact that hero decided to call here, because let's think about what player 1 has. If player 1 had something like 2 pair, say it's jack 10, or had something like a set, like pocket 3s, does he really call flop and call turn? Or does he raise the turn once the turn then presents another draw? And I think a lot of players are very, very likely to raise that turn, whether they have 2 pair, whether they have a set, whatever it is. I think they're going to raise there a large chunk of the time, which means that when they just call, they're probably looking at things like 1 pair or a draw type hand. And on the river, obviously, we beat all of that, except for like exactly ace jack, which I don't think he would overbet with either. I think he would bet for like $8 or $9 a large chunk of the time. At least the average person would at this limit. So because of that, I really, really like that we're looking this up. I think we're going to be looking at things like busted draws a large chunk of the time, and as played, that's actually exactly what happens. And I'm really, really happy that we're reviewing a hand that we won. You know, it's important, like I say all the time, to not just look at our losing hands, but to also explore our winning hands, make sure our lines were appropriate, make sure our reads and assumptions were appropriate, and then go from there. So as played MouzeWarrior, I really, really like this. I think you played it very, very well on the river. However, I think leading up to the river, there were some things you could do a little bit better, like some extra preflop progression with a 3-bet, and as played, really making sure that we hammer out that flop size when we're going to raise the flop. So MouzeWarrior, thank you so much for the great hand, and if you or anyone else has a poker-related hand or question, feel free to leave it on our Google Plus page. Leave a link for that in the description box, and also please make sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this type of video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.